for the to prepare for using the calendar. So we were in the configure section, as you remember, and under the configure section what we were looking at is the categories, the types, the questions. What we'll do now is pick up on locations and event defaults. So under locations, you're going to have for your meetings certain places set up. So why not add the location where you meet? All you'll have to do is put their name and the city, and as you build it, this is what will appear when you click the Add Location button. Be specific about where they are, and also be sure to include their website, because it can be a way for people to find them, and it'll also help when you, in a minute, you'll see it helps by having the website and the address, where we can put up a MapQuest button. After you've done that, you also may list the place you have your golf outings or community events. The final thing that you want to look at in the configure button is the defaults. Now what a default is that these are things that you want to send to people when they register for an event. The text can be customized, but you want to be able to set it up as your registration and your calendar defaults. So for example, advanced registration for all events, and then it explains it. You also may want to explain your cancellation policy. Other things are just what happens every time someone opens the calendar. What view do you want? The one we have now is where we have a grid. In other words, a look at the calendar like a regular calendar setup, which is done for so people can recognize exactly what happened. They can click on it though and change it to list view. Now the beauty of list view is that sometimes it's easier to manipulate, to go through, although most people don't go that far in advance on your programming. But if they do, this is a way for them to do that. But we don't want to right now. We'll just leave it at grid. When do you want your week to start? Do you want to show any holidays? And how do you want to display the event description in the calendar? At the top or at the bottom? We're using at the bottom, which you'll see in a second. There'll be always a register button. So when you do that, what words do you want? It could also be enroll now or subscribe now, depending on what you're doing. You want to sometimes show the capacity. If you're doing your club meeting, you may have a capacity limit. Ours, for example, in Naperville is about 110. Others are at restaurants where the capacity may be down to 20 or 30. So be sure to note that. Secondly, let people know if you want them to be able to bring companions. This is particularly important for events, so husband and wife or friends. And then be sure to identify if they may not be attending, or as it says already registered, but either way, sometimes you want people to check in and let you know that they are coming or not. Finally, down here at the bottom, you can ask all of these questions of people. Do you want non-members to let you know that they have a company that they work with and what their title is? You can also make it required. So you decide. You may not even want it to show. You may just want their name. So you make the decision both on non-members and companions and guests. The main thing is if you're looking at non-members, maybe you're doing an event. This is a way of setting this up. You're doing an event. I always think that no matter what, you should have their email address. A lot of people will go ahead and put their phone number in anyway, but the email address is the easiest, quickest, and most effective way to reach people, and you want to do that. Then once you've got it down, hit save and you're in business. So let's look quickly at what it'd be like to set up an event. I'm going to use our Taste for Rotary event, which is coming up. This was actually a test one that I used in the workshop. To give you an idea, if I click on Add an Event, let's see what shows up. you have two choices. Now remember, we're talking about programming, and so you may, for example, want to do the program just once. This would be good for a community event. This will be good for your golf outing. This will be good for your fundraisers and special programs. So that's what this means. Single, put the title in, describe it. Who is it for? In your all's case, in our case, it's a district event. You also may be doing, and you want to put in as a category, remember earlier we were looking at those categories, you want to put in service project because you may have a fundraiser. So depending on what it is, you also may want to list it as your regular meeting. So if it is, change it from district leaders meetings to regular club meetings and identify it as such. The second thing is who's going to look at it? Visible to all. That's what this is. So keep that in mind. And then third, if there is a website, because you may have a special speaker, you can select their website. And then finally, is there a membership person to select that you want to be sure they get the emails, calls, and they know that people are coming? That's what this looks like. Time, start, and finish is pretty obvious. And then, depending on how your club is running this, you may want registration to be required, recommended, or it may be external in some cases, depending on the event. The fees, that's what we'll do here. Let them know. And also if you require it in advance or at the event, which you can do both. Partial payments may not be allowed. You make that decision. Later on we're going to talk about accounts, and when we do, we'll talk about how you can have an account and a checking account for each event. So you may have a membership account, you may have a donations account, you may have a special events or fundraiser account. All of those would show up here, and later on when we set this up, you'll see how you'll select the one that's appropriate. Do you want to track attendance? A lot of people do, whether it's for the club events or for the external community events. Either way, it'll be very important. So it may affect the way you get paid, as well as makes it easy for you to give a report back to the board. Finally, like before, you pick what you want for your either non-member or community companions as to what you want to know about them. Again, I strongly recommend show and require for the email address, but everything else, just show. They can fill it in at their option. Once you've done that, you'll click Next. And I need to go back up just a minute for our little deal to put an event to give you an idea what it looks like. So let's call it Taste of Rotary. And we'll give it a start date. Let's say that it's going to be on the 11th, and it'll finish up on the 11th as well. Starts at 8, ends at 5. Okay? And then go to Next. Now what we're going to do now is, as we set this up, is where are we going to meet and what are we going to do.